I was watching Kent Hovind's new video recently, yet another installment of him reading from his prison memoirs. The book is entitled, Why on Earth Did God Let This Happen?, with cover art depicting an orange jumpsuit-clad Hovind kneeling down in front of his prison cell and praying. I can think of a few events in human history that seem more deserving of that question. You know, like the Holocaust, the Black Death, 9/11, the Titanic sinking, Chernobyl, and Corey Feldman's album, Angelic to the Core. Since I'm an atheist, obviously I don't believe there was an actual God that existed and let all these atrocities happen. But let's say that Kent's preferred version of an Abrahamic deity does exist. He let Kent go to jail because Kent was totally guilty on all 56 counts, and so there would have been no reason for God to block the prison sentence from happening. Anyway, Kent's writing is generally pretty terrible, but he read a chapter that had a fairly interesting concept in this video. It's basically God describing different examples of pressure and then relating that back to emotional pressure and stress. Yes, how very clever of you, Kent. However, I'm sure that like a bunch of your examples are wrong.
So I had an email from God. God, hey son, it's 3:30 a.m. Why aren't you sleeping? Kent, I was sleeping fine, Lord, but I woke up with a lot on my mind. I've been under a lot of pressure lately. Lord, so has my wife, my family, my ministry. This year-long legal battle has produced a lot of pressure in many ways, especially financially. I also feel a deep yearning to be with my family and back out spreading your gospel. I guess it all woke me up. God, didn't you go to bed asking me to handle all those things? Kent, yes, Lord, I did. God, then why are you still carrying that load, son? Don't you trust me? 1 Peter 5. I guess not like I should, Lord. I'm sorry. God, well, son, let me explain a few things to you about pressure. First, pressure is good. I created it. It is required to get the juice from the flower, the oil from the olive, and the fragrance from the flower. The juice from the fruit and the fragrance from the flower.
If you're talking about using a modern electric juicer, these work by using a flat cutting blade on the bottom of a rapidly spinning strainer. The cut produce is forced against the juicing strainer through the use of centrifugal force. This force separates the juice from the pulp through the tiny holes in the juicing strainer. So, not an example of pressure.
Without pressure, the rivers would not flow, nor the water in your plumbing. It keeps the electrons flowing in the wires to light the room and turn the motor in the AC unit, which then supplies pressure to compress the freon and force the air to circulate to cool the building.
Now, Kent is actually right here about pressure causing the movement of water in pipes as well as rivers. If I was watching Kent with Bent, I'd take a drink here for Hovind getting something correct. Of course, water pressure and water flow are not the same thing. An easy way to describe the distinction between the two is that water flow is how much water flows down a faucet, and water pressure is how hard the water falls down the faucet. The more water that is flowing through a pipe, the higher the pressure. Water pressure is described as the force or strength that is used to push water through pipes or other pathways. Water pressure is created by altitude, height, and sometimes even gravitational pull. Many cities have a water tower, which is typically located high on a hill. This water tower is a large tank that holds the city's water supply. The height of the tank will determine the amount of pressure that the supply of water will have. River water flows from an area of higher elevation to an area of lower elevation. As Kent says, water doesn't flow uphill. Electrons don't flow through a wire because of pressure. It's a function of charge that causes this. Electrons are negatively charged particles, so whenever an electric potential is applied across the ends of a conductor, the electrons are attracted towards the positive terminal of the source, hence they tend to move towards the positive terminal. It's a function of charged particles, not of pressure. Kent makes a lot of claims in this video, so I'm just going to focus on the ones that are wrong from now on.
Your diaphragm pulls down on your lungs as you breathe, and air pressure all around you forces air into your lungs to keep you alive. It is pressure that gets the oxygen from your lungs into the bloodstream, which is moved around your body by more pressure, supplied by your heart, arteries, and capillaries.
This is basically correct, although I would say that oxygen moves into the bloodstream through diffusion through the alveoli, not pressure. But blood definitely does move through your body because of blood pressure. It's just like water in a pipe.
It is pressure that keeps all your cells inflated and makes your eyeballs round so you can read my word and enjoy my world. Pressure keeps the ink flowing out of the pen you hold.
No, I would say that the way a pen works is that it manages the flow rate of the ink by using a ball and socket joint. If we're talking about a ballpoint pen, you can imagine the mechanism working similar to a stick of roll-on deodorant, where the deodorant in the main chamber is liquid and it uses a plastic ball to allow some of it to come out without letting it flow out and spill from the container. So it's only when the ball is moved, as it rolls against your skin, or in the case of the pen, as it's pressed against the paper, that it allows the ink to come out, managing the flow of ink.
And press against the paper, which is made of fibers pressed into sheets and cut by pressure.
No, Kent, I'm going to need you to slow down, okay? Scissors cut things by lever action, not by pressure. The blades in a pair of scissors are a pair of wedges in a cross shape which pivot around a fulcrum. The attached handles are the levers which allow the lever action to work. The blades cross each other very closely, and at the point where they meet, the paper fails and rips, and that point keeps moving farther and farther down the paper. Go ask one of your 5-year-olds that seems to know about what kinds are, Kent. Maybe they can tell you about scissors.
Pressure keeps strings tight on a piano so that when they are struck, more pressure, they vibrate and exert pressure on the air around them, which makes your eardrum move and you can hear the music.
Wrong. Piano strings are actually made of high-tensile carbon steel. They are strung under great tension on a heavy cast-iron frame. It has to be very strong to support the string's tension, so this is really the force that's at work here, not pressure. When a piano key is pressed, the hammer strikes down on a string and it vibrates. This is known as a forced vibration. When lower notes are played, the string vibrates a lot longer than high notes. And when these high notes are played, the hammer actually strikes 2 or sometimes 3 strings at a time. To make the sounds louder, there is a large piece of wood mounted underneath them, called the soundboard, or a sounding board. When these strings vibrate, the soundboard also vibrates in sympathy, or resonance, kind of like how a wine glass vibrates when a soprano sings a high note next to it. The sound waves travel through the air, disrupting the air molecules, and they reach your inner ear. The speed of sound is not affected by pressure, though. This is because pressure and density both contribute to sound velocity equally, and in an ideal gas, the two effects cancel out, leaving only the effect of temperature. So basically, everything he just said had nothing to do with pressure.
Pressure lets you chew your food and turn your head to see the air pressure, called wind, rustle the leaves on the trees.
I think this is partially correct. In order to control muscle movement, the body uses electrical impulses sent from the motor center of the brain to the muscle we want to move. Other electrical impulses are generated from pressure points within the muscle that automatically report back to the brain via sensory nerves what the muscle is doing. But these points only make up a small part of our bodies. The main reason muscles can move is they are bound at each end and they can contract or relax. Like the piano strings, they're held under tension. As in physics, tension can be described as the pulling force that affects both ends of a string or a cable.
That exists because of root pressure, pushing water up to make them grow and push water and nutrients into the fruit for you to chew and squeeze with more pressure. Pressure also forces various minerals into more usable shapes. Wasn't that pen you were holding formed and filled using pressure? Weren't the parts of that table you were sitting at and parts of the building you are all in formed by pressure? Isn't the building you are in held in place by pressure? Yes, Lord, it's all true.
Well, it's not all true, Kent. I mean, a bunch of the things you said were wrong, as usual, because you're always wrong. But anyway, this video is getting long, and he's starting to spit out so many claims per second that I don't even know. I don't even know what root pressure means, so I'm going to end the video here. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make a part 2 and try to address some of these other claims he makes, but this is starting to get ridiculous. If you enjoyed the video, you can subscribe and turn on notifications to see right when I upload new ones. Check out my Twitter page, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can visit my Patreon. Remember to stay safe out there. You don't want to catch Hovind 19, and I hope you remember to pay your taxes.